Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Freedom Show. Coming up next is an interview with a friend of mine, Danny Silk, who is the founder of Loving on Purpose, a ministry to families around the world that helps people protect, heal, and strengthen their most vital connections. He's also the CEO of Danny Silk Consulting, which specializes in helping organizations establish a culture of honor. Coming up next, my interview with Danny. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Uncommon Freedom Show. I'm really excited to have a good friend and especially a parenting mentor with me, Danny Silk. Danny, good evening. How are you?
Hey Kev, I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a real treat to have you on. I started hearing about you from our mutual friends, Doug and Tia, and then Becca, who read your book, Loving on Purpose. And I finally actually read it myself over the summer and got a ton of value out of it. But you and I have met in person, I think officially for the first time last October at Tia's book launch. Did we meet prior to that, or is that the first time officially?
I think I crossed paths with you a few times. We may have shook hands, but
Yeah.
I think that was the first time we actually had a conversation.
I agree. And all I know is that we have numerous mutual acquaintances or friends, and everyone speaks incredibly high of you and Sherry. And love you both. You're amazing people. And I mean, I have additional respect for you because, as I can see from your background, you're a fellow Corvette lover. Tell me about your Corvette.
Oh, it's a 2017 C7 Z06. It's my daily too. I mean, and I have a little mountain road here that I travel to work. Two of my favorite parts of the day.
Yep. I was telling my son, because I picked him up from school today in my Corvette, and I realize it's not practical for everyone to have one, either financially or just from a space standpoint. But I love driving my Corvettes, and It just makes going anywhere, whether it's going to pick up, groceries 2 miles away or going for a longer trip, it just makes driving fun. So if you have to do it, you might as well have fun doing it, right?
If we're going to do it, we might as well have fun.
Yeah.
I concur.
And then those designs behind you, you're telling me those are actually local racetracks that you've driven on?
I have a little race team I'm a part of. We have 4 drivers. We have endurance races. So we do Saturday and Sunday, daylight hours. We race other teams. And I tell Sherry, it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on.
Yeah. You know what? I said something very similar to a friend over the weekend. I was talking to him about flying because we're going to get my pilot's license, and driving fast on a track and flying an airplane are two of the best things, like you said, you can do with your clothes on. So totally agree. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm excited. I asked you to review my book, my forthcoming book. By the time this podcast is published, it will be out. I just showed you the first hard copy that I had the privilege of seeing. I know you've been through this process numerous times.
Yeah, and we've been holding your first book. Isn't that just awesome?
It is. It really is fun. I was telling Becca that as a guy, I feel like it's as close as I can come to giving birth.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm sure you can relate to that. And then, we have a chapter in the book, or I have a chapter in the book called Parent with Purpose. And you have an awesome book. It is called Loving Our Kids on Purpose. And I didn't steal purpose from you. I guess it's what intentional people do, is they do things on purpose. So I would just love, to let you share free flow, kind of some of your parenting tips. I know probably the thing that stuck out to me was the most convicting for me as I listened to your book was the importance of connection. So why don't we start there? Talk about connection, why it's important, and how we can do a better job of that as parents with our kids.
I create it as primary. Some people create it as luxury. I think the mistake that we make is early on, especially, is we get it in our head that we think we can control these people because we can pick them up. We can pick them up and move them. We can overpower them. And that reinforces our past, because most of us were raised by people who felt responsible to control your children. Would you control your child? Somebody needs to control that child. And you're like, okay, well, good luck here. You try. That process of control gets into our belief system, and then we behave as though we do have control, not realizing that we are sowing seeds of disrespect and dishonor into our relationship. And then one day, when the disconnection is sufficient and the kid really isn't afraid of your punishments anymore, we call that adolescence, the kid gives you a, hey, I am not afraid of you anymore, and there is nothing holding us together. And that is such a painful revelation for parents, where they find out that they've been sowing these seeds of disrespect into their relationship, and now, boom, it's harvest day. Now they're going to get back what they've sown in all these power struggles and clashes. And this kid is out of control. Now they're just out of control because there is no hope of reeling them in. If we sow seeds of respect for the connection and teach the child the value of being connected to us, then when they do have a choice to bolt and rebel, they consider the effect of the connection and they manage themselves. So throughout their life, I'm teaching them self-control because nobody controls you. And then when they're adolescents, they now understand they have the power of self-control and they use it to protect us.
That's good. Now, real quick, backtrack. Give us a little, tell me about your family a little bit, because you are a parent, which gives you credibility in this. Tell me a little bit about your family and your kids and grandkids.
I have 3 children. My oldest is Brittany. She is 38 now. And then I have 2 boys. Levi is 34 this December, and Taylor is 32 this December.
Okay.
So Ben and Brittany married a guy named Ben from Australia. They have 3 kids, and we all live together. So Sherry and I and those 5 people live together, have almost going on 9 years now, and love it. Just love it. And then my youngest son, Taylor, is in Los Angeles in some Hollywood productions. He's not married yet. And my oldest son, Levi, just recently moved back to Northern California, where he grew up, and is living with some of the relatives up there. He's not married.
Got it. So you have 3 kids and 3 grandkids. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So you've been able to see this in action. You've applied it, but I also know that you didn't start out this way. Could you kind of talk about your journey from initial parenting and maybe just flying by the seat of your pants, or utilizing the things that were used with you as a child when you finally had this awakening to where the connection was so important versus just trying to control your kids?
Yeah, well, Sherry and I, we both got married 1 year after giving our life to Jesus. So the toolkit that we brought was our families, and our families are pretty busted up. Like Sherry's 2 parents and my mom and dad, and then Sherry's stepfather, who raised her since she was 6. Those 5 people represent 15 marriages. They've all been married 3 times.
Holy smokes.
So this is the legacy that is coming into our family. Busted, disconnected, drug-infested, alcohol, you name all the stuff. It's 1 generation behind us. And so we're trying to figure out how to put the axe to the root of the tree here and stop all that from crescendoing on our families. And every time we reach in the toolbox, all we have are the same tools that they handed us. So we are, in fact, turning into our parents because those are the tools that we have. So I ended up pursuing, my education is in social work. I have an MSW. We worked with juvenile offenders. We worked in foster homes and adoptive care families. I worked with families in crisis for 15 years. And it was in that journey of, how do I teach Christian foster parents how to parent these foster children that they can't spank? What tools? I got nothing. They got nothing. It's just pulling belts off and chasing kids around with wooden spoons. I'm like, no, we can't do that. I know that's what you did, but we can't spank someone else's child. So that sent me on a journey where I learned about an outfit called Love and Logic out of Golden, Colorado.
Yep.
And just downloaded and really helped me combine the kingdom of heaven. How does my Father parent me? He's not in my face screaming at me. He's not taking me out to the woodshed. He's not spanking me. He's not pushing me around the living room. What is the Lord using to lead me? And that's where I really discovered the depth and the power of a heart-to-heart connection is really how my Father leads me. And that's the seed, that's the seed bed. A bunch of the skills and tools that I picked up came from Love and Logic and then teaching parenting seminars in schools and churches all over the place. And here we are 40 years later.
Awesome. Take us maybe some of the age ranges of what connecting looks like. So let's talk about maybe the preschool to kindergarten, first grade age range. How can we connect with our kids in that age group? What are some suggestions you have for us?
Well, I think that kids connect pretty easily with their parents when they're little because, you supply every need they have. So really what you're trying to not destroy the connection you're going to begin to teach your toddler to think and to problem solve and to control themselves, which is not what most people are thinking about. Most people are trying to get a toddler to do exactly what they told them to do, which is what makes this such a war, is I'm trying to control a tornado who doesn't control themselves. So there's lots of fun to be with. That's probably the main skill development or tool that you'll be using with a preschool age child is, you want to be fun or do you want to go to your room? Do you want to go to your room with your feet touching the ground or not touching the ground? You can come out when you're fun. Take your time. Now that exercise parents will do for years, but it's a self-control exercise. I'm teaching my toddler to be fun instead of whatever they're doing. So you want to be fun or do you want to do what you're doing in your room? You want to do what you're doing in that chair. And pretty soon you'll watch a child, you'll say right to this little 4-year-old, you want to be fun or you want to go to your room? And they'll go, fun, I'll be fun. Like, bam, that is self-control practice right there.
So instead of threatening the child, like, you better cut it out and put a smile on your face right now, it's recognizing I can't force even a 5-year-old to put a smile on their face, right? And so I'm saying, listen,
especially by screaming at them.
Exactly. So it's recognizing, hey, you have the right to have a bad attitude. You just don't get to do it around everyone else. So if you want to be with everyone else, you're welcome to. You got to be fun. And if you need some more time to have a bad attitude, we're just going to have you do it in your room or a chair or anything like that. That's essentially what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. Because sometimes I just need to go to my room.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just having such a hard time. I just need to get away. Like, I am no fun. You guys do not want me in this room right now. I'm going for a walk. I'm going for a drive. I'm going to go take a nap. I am overwhelmed. I need time to control myself. Well, certainly a preschooler is going to need the same.
Yeah. Let's move on now to, maybe that middle to late elementary school to maybe even early middle school. What does connecting look like? How do we kind of shift our parenting as kids grow up from the early elementary ages?
This is when probably the developmental task has a lot to do with teaching them to clean up their mess. So, when a child is irresponsible or disrespectful, take your pick, there's a disconnect. And I tell them, that's no fun. And so what are you going to do now is their prompt to pick wisdom, to pick responsibility, to pick respect. And they say, clean up my mess. You're like, right. And so it's no longer just about self-control. It's now about addressing what happened in the relationship. So the child lied to me. The child punched his sister. The child doesn't want to do their homework or doesn't want to help with a chore. So I say things like lots of choices. But when a child lies to you, you don't ask them if they lied to you. You say, I don't believe you. And you say, so how do you think that feels? Do you think I feel respected or disrespected when you lied to me? I didn't lie. I didn't ask you if you lied to me. I told you I don't believe you. So I'm just going to move along. Like I'm not, I wasn't there. I doggone it, I don't have the video. So I have to actually kind of go with my gut. Like, yeah, you're lying to me. So I don't believe you. It's true. I don't believe you.
Mm-hmm.
And now what are you going to do? Okay, have a seat. As soon as you come up with the solution, let me know. Now the child's in a chair and I continue doing whatever I was doing and they wave. I want to clean up my mess. Okay, great. And that's the goal. The goal now is for the child to take responsibility for the way their behavior affects our relationship. And I taught them to control themselves. And now I teach them to take responsibility for their mistakes because life's full of them. And it's not about winning a court case. It's not about blaming somebody else. It's about taking responsibility for yourself. And so much of those years is about cleaning up your messes when you make a mistake.
Mm-hmm. How do parents deal with a child that they feel like they're constantly having to address the same issues? For example, they're leaving stuff out, not cleaning up after themselves. Now, granted, in the scope of things that parents have to deal with, that's not the most important, but it can also be a nuisance, especially like for us, 4 kids. If only one kid left things out on a regular basis, it would be one thing. But when you're dealing with multiple kids, it has this compounding effect. How do we keep the connection and address the fact that, son, I am really growing tired of having to remind you to clean up after yourself all the time? Any suggestions for any parent who might have to deal with anything like that?
You're right. In the scope of things, that's not a big deal. But if you're bringing the hassle level down to that, well done. That would be a time when I just offer a choice. Say, hey, you want to pick up your stuff or do you want me to pick up your stuff for you? Because if I pick up your stuff for you, it ends up in, we'll call it the redemption bag.
Yep.
And if you'd like to get your stuff back, come find me on Saturday because I got some stuff you could do to get your stuff back.
Yep.
And if you don't come find me, now I know the junk that we have in our house.
Got it. So you're not making a big deal about it. You're communicating with them like, hey, you got 2 options. You can take care of it, or I can take care of it. Or I imagine I can pay your brother or your sister to take care of it. Or you can pay your brother or sister. I'm going to have them do it. And I'm not going to pay them. You're going to end up being the one to pay them, right?
Yeah. It would be like, if I don't want to iron my shirts, I have a choice. I can take them to the dry cleaner. I can wear wrinkly shirts. I have 2 choices. Everybody has 2 choices pretty much about anything.
Yeah.
So I get really good at choices with all my kids, actually, but especially that post-toddler all the way through to early adolescence. Lots of choices.
Okay, got it.
Hey friends, here's a quick reminder that if you're finding value in this show, would you do us a favor and subscribe, share with someone you think would benefit, and give us a 5-star rating. We make nothing from this show and invest a lot of time and money producing it. All we ask is that you help us get our message to more people.
And let's move on to teens. So obviously, if sloppy teens was the worst that we had to worry about, that would be wonderful. But through the course of history, it really wasn't until the last 100 years or so that kids were living with their parents and not being independent like they are today. I mean, teenager is kind of a 100-year-old phenomenon, really. So I think that creates a lot of the problems that we actually have in modern society. But let's face it, kids living with their parents till they're at least typically 18 and many times beyond that. And the things that parents have to worry about, the battles that parents and kids fight are a lot more than just leaving things out. We got cell phones, we have curfews, we have music, we have media, we have sex, drugs, all kinds of stuff. How do we bring connection into these much more serious and consequential topics?
Yeah, this is when we just double down on the connection. This is really all I have. I've done a good job of training my child in what's important to us, what's important in life, what's important to God. We've done a good job of showing them and training them. We're now a coach and we are in intimate relationship. I mean, outside of my spouse, I don't have anybody that gets in my heart the way you do. Mm-hmm. So your choices affect me right here primarily. And so yikes, ouch, ugh, whoa, yay. That'd be my 5. Ouch, that hurts. Yikes, you're scaring me. Whoa, I feel powerless when you do that. Ugh, I feel really sad. Yay, I love it when you do that. I would just learn how to quickly engage my kid's heart and attention to our relationship with speaking the truth in love. And I would let them know and experience me instead of acting like I'm bulletproof, like I'm made of Kevlar, like you can't hurt me. Instead of putting up this really tough bulletproof front, I would stand in the light and say, ouch, and let them feel the weight of hurting me. Yikes. Let them know I'm scared. The more you talk, the more scared I get. Ugh, you've told me twice before that you're going to protect me, and you haven't. That's so sad to me. I feel so sad. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, when you get that upset that fast, I feel powerless to have a conversation. Maybe we could talk later, or do you want to try again?
Oh, that's good. That's good. How about addressing the relationship, the connection piece versus implementing consequences? Like, how does a parent, especially of a teenager, of an adolescent, figure out what they should be doing from a consequence standpoint?
Well, it really depends. I mean, a pregnancy is a consequence that we're just going to live through.
Right.
Like Taylor, when he was 16, he didn't come home. I was sick. That's how I found out he didn't come home, is he had a curfew. We were in bed already, and I was worshiping at the porcelain throne, and I noticed he's past his curfew. I texted him. I said, hey, dude, I don't know if you noticed, but you're not here. And I didn't hear anything. And then I woke up on a bathroom floor about 3 a.m. and I said, am I calling the police, or are you about home? Crickets. Sherry wakes me up in the morning, and I said, is Taylor in his room? She said, no. I said, he didn't come home last night. So, she is now in panic mode, because this is the first time any of our kids had ever done that. Like, it seems like every one of your kids introduces something to freak you out that the other ones didn't. And this was Taylor's. Taylor's contribution, our youngest, was didn't come home. So she's trying to figure out where he is. And about 8 a.m., he walks in the door, and I met him at the door. I said, I'm glad you're alive. Keys, phone. He's like, oh, he's all upset. He's like, I can't believe it was us. I had nothing to say. Off he goes. And I fell asleep on my cousin's couch, and my phone died, and there's no electricity on that side of town. I don't know what he was trying to do. He's just like, dude. So I slept all night at my cousin's house, slept until 2 p.m, right? And then he comes out of his room in his underwear, going to the bathroom, looking at us like a prisoner of war, and I'm like, I got nothing. I got no conversation with this boy. That's not the guy I want to talk to. And then about 4:30, the phone rings. One of his friends went back when the phone was on the wall in the house. I said, yeah, he's here. Taylor. So Taylor comes. Taylor goes, oh, that's tonight? Oh, I forgot. So his buddy just reminded him that there's a Halo video game tournament, and they have matching shirts and everything. So now Taylor comes out. Now he's like, okay, Dad, hey, I'm really sorry. I just wanted to say sorry. I just wanted to clean up my mess. I'm like, okay, well, sorry for what? Well, sorry I didn't come home. I'm sorry, sorry that you guys were worried. I go, why does that matter? So, well, I don't know. I mean, I thought you wanted me to be here. I said, well, why would it matter if I wanted you to be here and you didn't come home? What? I don't know what you're doing right now. What are you doing? I'm trying to clean up my mess. You're making this impossible. You're doing that thing you do with everybody else. You ask them all these questions.
Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. I said, well, can I ask you some questions? He goes, yeah. I said, how did Mom and I fall so far down your consideration list when you think of how you're going to take care of things? It seems like you took care of 20 things before you even thought about how your decisions would affect us. That felt so disrespectful and so powerless and so scary to not have you come home. And you didn't even consider us until number 20. I feel I have no value when it comes to how you sort through your relationships. And he said, that's how you feel? I said, yeah. He said, you don't think you're important to me? said, well, that was not my experience last night. And he says, well, I'm sorry. I had no idea that's how you felt. That'll never happen again. I said, okay, that's all I needed today. I just need to know that that's never going to happen again. He said, it won't. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I said, I do forgive you, son. Thank you. I said, do you want these keys in this phone? He goes, yeah. And that was it. That was it. That was the whole interaction. And that's repentance. And that's what I need. I don't need your sorry. I need repentance. And I believed it. And I was right. It never happened again. Now, a bunch of other stuff happened, but not that one. That one didn't happen again. And that's what I need from him. I need him to adjust to protect my heart. Wow. And that's really how the Lord leads us. A lot of parents right there are saying, when do we get to punish him? Like, well, I took his keys and his phone the second I saw him. That's just a freedom and a privilege that you've abused. Until you repent, you can't handle this. You're going to hurt me with this. So if he hadn't have handled it that way, I would have still had his keys and his phone for however long it took for him to take responsibility, clean up his mess, control himself, honor our connection.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think as parents, we tend to run towards a consequence or punishment. And it's easy when you hear a scenario like that to think, oh man, you're letting them off the hook easy, right? Like you're letting them get away with it. Yeah. But what you're saying is when you have that heart connection, and obviously, you know, some kids are really good at fibbing and others aren't good at it, or others just maybe don't do it. But when you actually believe that the repentance has happened, because repentance means, you know, basically doing a 180, you're going away from it, you know, unless there's some type of natural consequence that automatically happens, that the doling out of a punishment isn't necessarily beneficial.
Yeah. Nothing I can add to that gets what I wanted. I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
But let's say it happens again. Okay, now I got a credit card when I was 18. I racked it up. I didn't pay it off. I have a ding on my credit. Now I want to buy a car. I go back to the bank. They check my credit. What happens? Oh, buddy, that's your second offense, right? Yeah. You get away with that first one, but we knew you'd be back. And I know he's coming back. And if he comes back with a, I'm sorry, Dad, I love you, and that'll never happen again, I will say to him, buddy, I don't believe you. That's what you said last time. Now he's got a credibility problem. Now we're going to learn about credit and how credit works, right? And that's the paramount. If you need something from me that is built on trust, you've got to have credibility. And if you lose that, you got the worst problem in the world, friend.
Yeah.
So he'll be crawling out of that hole for a while because I'm hard to convince. And I gave you grace and mercy on that first round.
Yeah.
But this second one, Lord, didn't I perform great miracles and do wonderful things? Yeah. I never knew you, bro. Like, whoa.
Yep.
Bam, it's right there. So what's he going to do the second time? I'm not really sure, but I'll let you know when I feel it.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. Do you have any advice for us and other parents? You said your oldest is now 32. Is that right? Did I get that right? 32?
Brittany's 38.
I'm sorry. Your youngest is?
My youngest is 32. Yeah.
32. Youngest is 32. So I'm doing some math. He was 18, 14 years ago, which means 2009. When did the iPhone come out? Shortly before that, right? So flip phones were common when you were raising your kids. Smartphones really didn't exist then, did they?
No, but
social
I do
media.
have children. Yeah, so Delaney had a phone, got herself in a world of trouble with that phone. And Addie's got a phone now, and she took notes.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for us parents raising kids in this digital age? There's just so much downsides. I mean, there's definitely some pros. In my opinion, there's more cons for kids to have phones than there are pros, whether it's the unintentional easy access to pornography. I mean, you can look up a kid's YouTube video and, you know, the next video in the queue could be something totally inappropriate. And so it's not even intentional. Do you have any advice for us parents on how to manage that and keep the connection with our kids? Instead of it just being about rules, like you can't have this or you can type of thing.
Yeah, it just so depends on the kid, right? Because some kids are like just born for danger and adventure and enter where angels fear to tread. And other kids are just so afraid of being in trouble that they just self-govern strictly. So, I mean, you got this continuum of who am I talking to right now? And I would just be honest with them as much as possible and say things like, yikes, I have your phone because of that last exchange we had when I asked to see it and you freaked out. Okay, people who have nothing to hide don't act like you act. So I have your phone because you're scaring me. What are you going to do? And as often as I can, I'm going to make my child's problem their problem, not my problem to convince them of. So if you have a child with a phone and they're scaring you, you have their phone. If you have a child with a phone who's hiding it or clearing their history or what, like, okay, I'm scared. I can't prove anything, but I'm scared. So I have a phone. I have two phones now. Now I have two phones. Both of my phones I carry, I should say. Both my phones I carry. And you let me know when you figured out what you're going to do to manage this level of freedom. Because, honey, you've taught me you are not ready for this much freedom.
That's good. Awesome. Danny, talk about the benefits, because I know from reading your book that you didn't start out your parenting journey understanding the importance of connection, and you made a shift mid-course. Talk about the benefits, because I know you have a very close relationship with your kids now. Can you talk about what are the benefits of having this focus on connection and how does it pay off in the long run?
Well, I mean, obviously, Brittany, my oldest, she's my success plan for this ministry that we built, Loving on Purpose. She wrote a book called Imperfect Parenting, which is her rendition of loving your kids on purpose. She's now teaching and training in conferences and flying around the world. They're doing the next gen. And then to watch them as parents, probably the greatest delight that I have in life is watching my daughter do a better job than I did as a parent. It's just the meow, man. It is so rewarding. I mean, it's the best. One of my sons is my political antithesis. He has the opposite worldview of pretty much everything in life than I do. And yet he edits the videos for our podcast. He works with my media team, and he is still connected to us. He comes up, stays at the house. He's the best uncle in the world. He's just a kick. And we're very connected because that is the emphasis. So agreement is not what holds us together. We have vast disagreements. In today's climate with adult children, that's what's blowing up families. You have to show me before I can love you. And that's not happening. And so fear is ruling so many family cultures because we didn't emphasize the love that chases away the fear that comes through connection.
That's so good. That's awesome. Well, Danny, I really appreciate your time. I know that many people have gotten a lot of value out of your book. I certainly did. And I'm going to go back. I think it's one of the few parenting books that people need if they just kind of kept it on replay, probably reread or re-listened every year, because, you forget stuff and you fall into old habits. You fall into the habits of your parents and things like that. If we just applied some of the top-notch stuff that we have access to, we'd be much better off. So I really appreciate your time. And real quick, can you just talk about your ministry? Because I know, talk about what Loving on Purpose does. And if people want more information or tap into the resources and the help that you offer, talk about what you guys do and how they can get more information.
Yeah, lovingonpurpose.com. We just refreshed our whole website, so go check it out. It has all really the core offers that we present there. We have something called the Life Academy that is just videos. It's like 100+ videos of all this stuff. It's culture of honor, it's loving our kids, it's unpunishable, it's keep your love on. It's all the books that I've written in courses that are really designed for small groups. And then we also have Kylo University, which is a 16-week relationship course that teaches us our connection with God, our connection with our own heart, and our connections with other people. And that's just changed lives left and right. And then we have family coaching. People want a conversation about what to do with my child right now. Family coaches that have all been trained in what we do will get on there and help you work through any of your marriage, parenting, personal situations or challenges that you might need encouragement in.
Family coaching, is that something that's done virtually or they have to be local? How does that work?
Yeah, it's all done online.
Got it. Awesome. Well, Danny, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your friendship, appreciate your mentorship. I know Becca and I have reached out to you and Sherry on numerous occasions to get your advice on different scenarios that we've encountered as parents. And there's definitely no perfect parent, but our goal is to, be better than our parents were, not a dig on our parents. And hopefully our kids will be even better parents than us. I know right now, my kids are convinced they will be better parents than us, but time will tell. So great to have you. And thank you so much for this conversation, my friend.
Thanks, Kev. I really appreciate being with you.
All right. God bless.